Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Euraxis ASEAN webinar. My name is Susanne, and I'm part of the Euraxis ASEAN team. And today we will be talking about how to do a funded PhD in Europe as part of an MSCA ITN. And I think what's going to be a lot more exciting to you than listening to me is listening to these three guys that you can see here, because they are either currently doing their PhD as part of a MSCA funded program, or they have, as Wicak, just finished their PhD. So they will be sharing with you their experiences in doing a PhD in Europe, and maybe also some tips and advice on how to put in a successful application. So I will just share my screen with you guys now, and just to show you what we're going to do today. Sorry, I just need to make myself the presenter. Here we go. Show my screen, and now we can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Gladys, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Perfect, excellent. So let's get started. As I said, today we're talking about how to do MSCA funded PhD in Europe, and I've already told you a little bit about the agenda for today. I will talk a little bit about the general information, what these MSCA ITN are and how you can benefit from them. And then I'd also like to talk just a few minutes about the network that I'm representing, Euraxis, because I think this is a wonderful resource for mobile researchers that want to find out about the opportunities such as the MSCA ITN that are available in Europe. And then, of course, we will hear from our three researchers today. We have with us Wicak, he's from Indonesia, Gladys, she's also from Indonesia, and we have Vanessa from Singapore, and all three of them are MSCA Fellows, and they will share their story with you. Throughout the presentations today, you have the opportunity to ask questions, not orally, but you can type your questions, and we will address your questions at the end. So you have the opportunity to engage with our presenters today. Let me get started. First of all, what does MSCA mean? This is an acronym that you may have come across already. MSCA, of course, stands for Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions. Here you can see the lady who's lent her name to this program, Marie Skłodowska-Curie, a Polish-French scientist. You might have heard of her. She's been famous, of course, for her work on radioactivity. And she is the namesake for a particular type of funding program that is part of the European Union research program, Horizon 2020, namely MSCA. The MSCA are dedicated towards the development, the career development of researchers and scientists. And we're talking today about one specific budget line within the MSCA, namely the ITNs, the Innovative Training Networks. Now, innovative training networks are mobility training programs for scientists. So you can see this is about mobility, moving to Europe, and these are training programs. The MSCA actually have opportunities, funding opportunities for researchers and scientists at different stages in their career development. So there's a funding program for postdocs as well. You may have joined us a couple of days ago in our webinar on the individual fellowships. We are talking today about the funding for doctoral programs, doctoral training, the innovative training networks. Now, what are these things? What are these ITNs? Sorry, I need to move my thing over here. There we go. So ITNs are interdisciplinary and international doctoral training networks. That means, unlike a traditional PhD program where you are based at one institution, one university, these PhD programs are composed of a network of different actors. Interdisciplinary in the sense that it is not just universities that are coming together, but they're also public and private research centers. industry players, companies, non-profit organizations that may be part of one of these training networks. They are international networks in that these different network partners come from different countries in Europe. And they are dedicated to training PhDs to become leaders in their field. So what they really offer is a unique PhD training experience to really put you at the top of your career and pave the way for you to climb in your career development. There are different types of ITNs, and I just want to explain the difference to you, because once you get on our database and you look for opportunities, you will come across different types of ITNs. Just to explain to you what the difference are. There are three different types, but what is important, all of them offer a unique opportunity to work with academic and non-academic partners in an international setting. So all of them are providing you with top-class doctoral training. The different programs are, the first one is the European Training Network. So as the name already implies, the PhD placement is in Europe, although you might have short stints as part of your doctoral training outside Europe in a different part of the world. The projects focus on interdisciplinary training and offer a combination of academic and industry experience. The idea of ITNs is really to train researchers to move away from the classic academic career path, not just to continue and work in a university setting, but to prepare you for the challenges that industry might be facing, so that your experience and expertise that you acquire during your PhD training is applicable to a specific industry, and you can smoothly make the transition and continue your career there. The second type of ITN are the European Industrial Networks. So they combine training from academic and non-academic partners. And in this type of network, you would spend half of your time with a university or traditional academic host, and the other 50% you would spend in a non-academic sector, for example, with a company. And in this case, you would also not just have one supervisor, but you would have two. One, of course, from the university where you will be hosted, and the other one from the non-academic sector. And the third ITN that exists are the European Joint Doctorates, and they offer, as the name implies, either joint, double, or multiple doctoral degrees. So a joint doctoral degree would be, for example, if you pursue a single PhD, but it's offered by two educational institutions. They offer an integrated program, and you would go away with a joint PhD degree. Sorry. Double or multiple degrees would be two or more PhD diplomas that are awarded also by two or more institutions. And in this case, the time you spend in the different sector, of course, depends on the type of research focus and the network and the needs of the network. I've already said these ITNs are not just about PhD training. It's not just a classical PhD training where you're just obtaining specific academic knowledge, but it's also about multidisciplinary training. And I think what makes these ITNs so interesting is the emphasis that is placed on career development. Marie Curie Fellow in an ITN would establish a career development plan together with his or her supervisor. And in that development plan, career development plan, they would set out their objectives. What kind of research output are they aiming for within the framework of their PhD studies? What are their wider career plans, and what kind of training needs would they have? And then the ITN will try and provide this training that matches with the career development plan of the fellow. The PhD students on an ITN will also have the opportunity of participating in a wide array of networking opportunities. So of course, as any PhD student, you would attend academic conferences and present your research output, but you would also attend networking meetings. So the meetings of the different members of your innovative training network. You would meet with the different stakeholders. You would go on exchanges, and you would also collaborate possibly with other ITNs that are related to your research field. Where in Europe can you find these MSCA ITN? I already said this is a mobility training scheme, and they take place in Europe. And this is really a Europe-wide network. ITNs have partner organizations from all these countries that are listed here on the slide. So on the left, of course, the current EU member states. On the right, 16 additional countries that are also involved in this MSCA program, in the MSCA ITN. So all the big research players and research actors and big leading companies that are leading in research are involved in these training networks. And I put the UK here in brackets as well, because for the time being, there are also UK institutions involved in ITNs. What about funding? A very important question. So these PhD positions are funded by the Skłodowska-Curie Actions. And I put this in bold. The eligibility states that applicants of all nationalities can apply for these opportunities, for these PhD openings. This is very important to remember. So even if you're joining us today and you're not based in ASEAN, you're not an ASEAN citizen, it doesn't matter. Nationality is not a criterion. What is important are your credentials, your academic background, your CV must be convincing. It's very much like applying for a job, and your nationality does not play a role. It's a very generous fellowship, I think. There's a living allowance that varies a little bit depending on where in these European countries you're living. In some, the living expenses are higher, and some they are lower. But on average, it's about 3,000 euros per month. So it's a very comfortable money for you to live off. There's a mobility allowance of 600 euros per month. As I said, the ITN, your PhD training involves also mobility, moving between different partners. And this will help towards covering your costs. And there's also a family allowance that you might be eligible for in case you have a family. Disregarding whether your family moves with you to Europe or stays behind wherever your home is. So again, a very generous funding program. And how do you apply? And I said this already, it's very much like applying for a job. The difference here to other PhD programs is probably that you don't decide on your own PhD proposal. The proposals or the research topic is already decided. So the ITNs, the Innovative Training Network members, have already identified their research focus, and they've identified a number of PhD projects, and now they're looking for people to fill these positions. So your role is really to look at the database, find out which positions are currently advertised, see whether they match your interests, and also whether they match your expertise, and then you just go and apply for them. And again, it's pretty standard on what you would have to provide in terms of documentation, proof that you are qualified to undertake a PhD. So normally you're asked to have a master's degree in a relevant discipline, a transcript of your grades, your CV, a personal statement, why you think this is the program that is good for you, contact details of reference letters, and there might be a certificate of language proficiency. Usually that is English, but this is not always mandatory. So it's pretty much, as I said, like applying for a job position. And now I'm hopeful that all of you are super excited now, and you're asking me, where do I find these opportunities? And the answer is Euraxis. Euraxis, the organization that I'm representing, is a database primarily that is maintained by these 40 European countries that are part of the European Research Area and that are part of the MSCA program. And what this database gives you is lots and lots and lots of information. Mainly, where are the job opportunities, where are the funding opportunities, but also where can I get support. It is also a network. A lot of people are signing up for EURAXESS because they want to network with other people. It is a growing network, not just in Europe, but across the globe. I am EURAXESS ASEAN. We have EURAXESS also in India, in China, in Japan, in Korea, in the US, in Latin America. And we will be having one in South Africa as well. So it's really a global network that I would like you to sign up for. And what is the key kind of element of this is the job and funding portal. And I have hyperlinked this here, and I hope this works. I want to show you what this looks like because I want to show you where do I find open PhD positions on an ITN. This is what the landing page looks like, jobs and funding, find jobs. And then you will just look under the European Research Program, and the one that we're talking about are the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions. You click on there, you click search, and then it will spit out all the open offers on Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions programs here. For example, let me find one here. 15 PhD opportunities within an ITN, ETN. You will all know by now what this means. And it will tell you what the projects are and how to apply for them, when the deadline is. You can apply here, contact, where to apply, etc. So this is really your go-to database to find out about PhD opportunities that are funded by the MSCA and to apply for them. If you ever have any questions, you can contact me. I am based in Singapore. I'm responsible for other countries in ASEAN as well. This is my email address. And my advice is really for you to join our mailing list so you will be updated on our activities and funding opportunities. The slides for today will be shared with you. So don't worry if you haven't been able to take notes. We will share the slides with you in a couple of days and you can look at them at your own leisure. But I want to stop sharing my screen now. And I think this is a great opportunity to bring in our fellows because they can now share their experience and their advice on what it's like to be a PhD in one of these networks. And I think we start off with Gladys. Gladys, okay. I will invite you to share your slides. Just give me a second. There you go.
Okay, so can everyone see my slide?
Yes, we can. Perfect.
Okay, so thank you so much, Suzanne, for the opportunity and also EURAXESS for me to share my experiences here studying in Poland. My name is Gladys Langi, and I'm a PhD student at the Medical University of Białystok, and I'm one of the MSCA Fellows. My program here is a Cofund program, which is co-funded by the EU, the MSCA, and also the Ministry of Science and Higher Education in Poland. And the acronym for it is IMPRESS. So right now I want to share to you my research background and my PhD program and how I study here. A little bit of my background. So I have an overarching theme that I would like to study, which is studying genetic and environmental factors for complex human diseases. And this is because I've been studying both of these factors kind of separately in my past. I started off with genetic factors in Indonesia. I did my bachelor's and I worked as a research assistant until 2015. And I was mainly doing work in a lab where I do experiments. And then I decided to do a master's degree, and I was funded by Fulbright to study in the US. and I earned my master's in human genetics. But during this time, I was mostly doing dry lab, which is data analysis, and working mostly on computers. And I also learned about epigenetics and how environmental factors are also important. So I wanted for my PhD to combine both of these, to do a lot of data analysis stuff, but also do some lab work to understand how to combine these two factors to understand more complex human diseases. And so luckily I found a program in Medical University of Białystok under the Cofund program. My university is in Poland. Białystok is a city near the east of Poland, and it's very pretty, it's very cute, it's not too big, so it's very nice for me. If you see on the picture at the top right, this is the palace where my university is based. This is where all the administrative activities happen. Some meetings are held there, and the impress officials have offices there. But most of my research is done in the hospital. This is on the bottom left is the building where I work. We are at the 4th floor at the Department of Clinical Research Center, and we have some sophisticated equipment and machineries that help me analyze a lot of samples at the same time. And pictured here is Dr. Nemira's team, who has been helping me a lot for my experiments. So it's a really nice place for me to study and do my PhD. For my program, IMPRESS is an acronym for a very long sentence, which is in green here. It's an international interdisciplinary program, as Suzanne has explained, that this is my program's aim is to have a network from people basically around the world. We have 15 people here who are doing PhD with me. Actually, there are 2 more other students from ASEAN. One is from Malaysia, another one is from Vietnam, and other students come from Turkey, Iran, India, Pakistan, the US, and also a Polish student who studied in Germany. So all of us came from around the world. And we have classes not only from my university, but also from universities around Europe who are partner institutes with MUB. Pictured here is our meeting with our partner institutes. We have meetings once a year, and the first one was last year. We presented our results and our research activities so far. And on the bottom left is a monthly meeting where we have with the IMPRESS coordinators. They always try to update us with upcoming events or changes in some administrative things, and they ask us how we are doing every month. And it's a really nice way for us to keep in touch and resolve any issues that might arise. In the right side, we have classes. I show you one picture of our practicums. We have also classes on biostatistics, and we have guest lectures also from our partner institutes. And on the bottom right is a picture with our Polish teacher. We have Polish lessons last year for a semester because the language is pretty difficult for me. But the IMPRESS coordinators arranged us a class so we can at least know some basic words and live better here. So lastly, a little bit about my PhD project. My advisor is Professor Adam Krętowski. He's an endocrinologist, and he's very interested in understanding treatment for diabetes and diabetes progression. But specifically for my program, I'm studying patient data and samples from a bariatric surgery study, which has been ongoing since 2015, and we've collected data before and after surgery. And for me specifically, I want to evaluate biomarkers to predict outcome of the surgery, and I'm evaluating microRNAs, lipid profile, and I was learning how to use machine learning approaches. And my outputs so far are publications as a review paper. We're also preparing an article for publication and also presentation about our data so far. So yeah, that is all from me, and thank you very much for your time, and I look forward for discussing more about my studies here. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Gladys. Maybe one question immediately.
Yes.
You are learning Polish, but I assume the program is not taught in Polish, right?
Yes, the program is in English, but we're just learning basic words because some of the officials or employers here in the school are more comfortable in Polish, so some of the things it will just be better for us. But everything and every documentation, every regulation, they will translate for us. So the officials really help us for to study well here. But most the main language that we use is English.
Thanks so much, Gladys, because I think that's always a key question that people have, whether they need to know the local language. Thank you so much. I think I'm going to invite Vanessa now to share her presentation. Vanessa is a 4th year student, so she's kind of more towards the end of her PhD journey. Vanessa, please.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay. So thank you, Suzanne, and for inviting me. It's a really great opportunity to talk about my PhD, which maybe I don't do as often as the science. My name is Vanessa Xavier. I have a MSc in Cell and Stem Cell Biology, and I'm currently in the University of Geneva in the last year, kind of the tail end of my PhD. So just to tell you a bit about my scientific history, I'm Singaporean. And I did my diploma in biotechnology in Singapore at Singapore Polytechnic. And then I continued with a bachelor's in molecular biology with the University of Western Australia, but we have the Singapore campus. So I did that. And then since it was kind of like a part-time program, I managed to also secure a research assistant position at ASA, which is kind of the government institute for research. So I did biological help I provided a biological service for chemists where they would make natural products to test against cancer cells. And I would do the testing and kind of the drug target ID experiments for them to see how effective their drugs were against certain types of cells. So, and then after I got my bachelor's and I had this really nice 4-year work training experience, I decided to move to Europe, which was like a big goal of mine. And I got accepted to La Sorbonne at the campus Pierre Marie Curie in Paris. And I did my master's in cell biology here. And it was really nice. It opened up like a world of research for me in Europe. And that I think that kind of solidified the idea in my head that I wanted to be in this community. So I managed to get a internship in my first year within France, and my master thesis was done in the Netherlands at the Erasmus Medical Center. So both of my internships were based on diseases. The first one was on BRCA2 mutations in breast cancer, and the one in the Netherlands was on polycystronic kidney disease. So it was always kind of disease related, but I work more on trying to find out the fundamental causes and potentially a cure for them, or some kind of drug intervention for them. So once I finished my master's, I decided that I wanted to stay in Europe, and that's when I found my PhD program here at the University of Geneva. So you can see this really nice lake view of Geneva, which is basically the whole city surrounds the lake. And that's my lab here. And my professor, Jean-Claude Martineau, he's the one kind of hiding here at the back. And the research focus of our lab is basically mitochondrial. And we have kind of 3 main focuses where we understand either the gene expression of the mitochondria, also the role of pyruvate metabolism. As you might know, pyruvate is a source of energy for the mitochondria for our bodies, and basically how also nutrients affect gene expression. And there's a lot of mice work where we put them on ketogenic diets to see if this affects their behavior and so on. So as you can see, I've highlighted in red my research project is mainly on understanding the control of mitochondrial gene expression. And what that entails is actually these structures called the mitochondrial RNA granules, which was actually newly discovered by my lab and another lab. And so it's quite exciting to be in a lab where they've started working on these granules that people have kind of not discovered or realized that they exist for a long time. So if you can see in this really, I think, beautiful picture of this cell, you will see the mitochondrial network in these faint green lines and these yellow dots like beads on a string of these RNA granules, and they're really dynamic. They move around and they basically contain RNA, which comes from the mitochondrial DNA and proteins. So I won't go into too much detail, but I mean, it's really nice to be in a lab where you're really trying to figure out what these new things are that people don't even know much in textbooks yet. So it's a really great opportunity that this program was funded with the Marie Curie ITN. So it's really like kind of groundbreaking research. So to talk more about the REMIX network that I am in, so mine, as I mentioned, is called REMIX. It stands for Regulation of Mitochondrial Gene Expression, which is what my project is about. And there's 15 fellows within this network, and all of us come from different labs across Europe, from Switzerland, Germany, UK, the Netherlands, and Sweden. But each one of us has a very particular, very specific aspect of mitochondrial research where the lab specializes in. So one lab, for example, really looks at the structure of proteins, which really is a whole field of biology by itself. And for me, for example, I do a lot of molecular biology. There are others who do work more on the DNA, yeah, basically every different aspect of the mitochondria. And the idea is to come together to kind of push forward the overarching theme of mitochondrial gene expression and how to push the research within this subject that's actually frankly not very well understood. So just to share with you what we do within this networks, we have yearly meetings. So every single year, all of our fellows, we meet up with our PIs and we need to present our progress report. And so it's really a good way, even before publications, to know what everyone is doing in the field, because basically everyone within the network is almost everyone within your field. So you kind of get really first-hand information, and it's all really confidential, very encouraging, and it's kind of a nice review process along the way as you go to get your results, that people in your field are convinced by what you're doing, and they're really nice feedback and suggestions on how to kind of manipulate your research progress to get kind of the results that you want. So we have those, and we've also been given workshops from the beginning. So we've had 2 workshops on how to write papers, how to write grants. We learned how to code with R to analyze your data, to visualize them, and we also have workshops. Like basically, we had a workshop on mitochondrial lectures on mitochondrial biology. So we had scientists coming from the US and across Europe to give us an overview of the research going on in their lab. So it's really nice crash course to get an overview of everything that's happening, even within Europe and outside Europe. So and also I think another big part of the network is that you get sponsored to go to conferences. So this money is taken really from your training budget and not so much from the lab. And it's really hard for PhD students to get to go to all these major conferences, which frankly cost a lot of money. But as you can see here, every single year since I started in 2017, I've gone on a major conference every year. So the first one was basically only 4 months after I started my PhD, and this was the largest one on mitochondria. It's about 600 participants. So I knew nothing much, and immediately I was like faced with everything, which is quite a good experience. And it was quite a nice opportunity because last year too, I was chosen as a speaker for a short talk, as you can see here. And I presented my work in front of another FEBS, which is a European Biochemical Society lecture. So that was really nice for me to show my work as a 3rd-year PhD student. And also, as you can see, since we're moving around, you really get to travel a lot, and we've been to so many countries. And every time we go somewhere, a nice tour is organized. You have a networking session. And I mean, there's so many opportunities that normal or regular PhD students, maybe without the opportunity for this kind of funding, would find really hard to get a hold of. So I've had a lot of really good memories and really friends, I think, that I will have for life within this network. And it's also nice that you have really like people that you trust to talk about your research in a very relaxed manner. And I think this is one of the big highlights. And the other thing that I should mention is that we also have a mandatory exchange with another laboratory. So the plan was actually to do an exchange within a lab within your network, but they also have relaxed kind of the criteria so that if you find a different lab that is really relevant, more relevant to your research, you could go there. So that was exactly the case for me. So Dr. Ashish is he's recently published a paper that was really important to my field, but unfortunately he's not within the network. And he just started his new lab here at the Institute of Genetics and Molecular Sciences in Edinburgh. So even though he was not in the network, and it was really important for me to collaborate with him, and I've always just been Skyping with him for a year, I was funded to spend 2 months in Edinburgh. I just came back escaping the virus there, but it was a really nice experience. And I mean, to be 2 months with your collaborator and having access to everything that his facility or his institute has is a really great opportunity. And I mean, of course, Edinburgh is a beautiful city, and I had really nice memories, even with, you know, the impending virus. It was really a good experience for me. So that is basically all the activities I have within the network, and I hope you are really encouraged to apply and experience all of this for yourself as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. That looks really exciting. I have to say, both of your networks look very international. It also seems to me that the students are not all from Europe, but it seems to be a very international composition of researchers.
Yes, exactly. So I think within when we had our second year review, we had the officer from the EU come to us. So he was the one on the side of the EU that was in charge of our network, and he specifically told us that they really want to get people outside Europe, especially. So their main aim is to prove that if we are more open with research and more accepting, it makes science better. So I think they've specifically chosen people from different nationalities. So I mean, that is what they are looking for, which is perfect for us in ASEAN. So that was really nice.
Yes, yeah. This is a very good point. That science and research only moves forward if the brightest minds share their ideas, and of course the brightest minds are all over the world. Thank you so much, Vanessa. I think our final speaker is Wicak. Wicak, I'm going to make you the presenter now, and you are of course already finished with your PhD, and you have moved on to do your postdoc already. So I'm going to make the presenter now. So please share your story with us.
I suppose you can see my screen now, right?
We can, yes, perfect.
Okay. So thank you, Suzanne, for the opportunity that you gave me. I'm just going to tell you all my experience as an MSCA Fellow. I'm currently a post-doctoral researcher at the Delft Center for Systems and Control at TU Delft in the Netherlands. I just started this position actually remotely here from Jakarta this month. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, I was born in Bali and I grew up in Jakarta. So I did my bachelor in the University of Indonesia, majoring in electrical engineering. And after working in a state-owned company for 2.5 years, I started my master's degree at TU Delft, actually, in the Netherlands. And then I joined UPC, Universitat Politécnica de Catalunya in Barcelona, to do my PhD in automatic control. And this PhD training was funded by MSCA ITN. Here I'm just going to tell you about the network itself. This is basically my network, which is called INSIGHT. It stands for Innovative Controls for Renewable Source Integrations into Smart Energy Systems. So the main theme that we that we discussed here, we investigated in this ITN was basically how we can actually integrate renewable energy sources into our future electrical systems. Or yeah. So this network itself actually already ended in 2019, last year, in November, and we were 14 PhD students located in 7 different institutions all over Europe. So this is me in UPC. I had a colleague there working in the same lab, and there was also another institute, which is actually Catalonian Research Institute for Energy. There were 4 other PhD students there. We also had another partner is in France, in University of Grenoble and also University of Bologna. There were also some companies. 2 were from Belgium and 1 was from Portugal, and also TU Delft also involved in the network. So I'm going to share my experience in this network, basically. So what we did regularly, every year we had 2 workshops and 1 summer school. And we had to move from city to city where the institutions were located. For instance, the 3rd workshop was in Porto. The first one was in Genk, and then in Barcelona, and then in Porto, Delft. We also visited Grenoble, Bologna, and at the end, the final conference was in Barcelona. And during these workshops and summer schools, basically we got some trainings. So we invited experts from academia and also from industries to talk about their expertise, mainly related with energy systems and control and optimization. And we also had trainings about soft skills, such as how to manage your project, how to actually convert your research into a company, for instance. And we also visited some labs in the university, or for instance, when we were in Porto, we also visited the manufacturing process of the company FSX, and most importantly, in the workshops we share our progress, and then we can discuss with our colleagues, and we can actually start collaborations with some of our colleagues. For instance, I collaborated with one of PhD fellows there, and we actually published a paper together because of this collaboration. So these workshops and summer schools were actually really good places to start collaborating and also getting to know people and also experts in your field. And the second activity that you have to do as MSCA Fellow is actually performing second-month research stays. As Vanessa has said, that normally you have to visit one of the partners institutions within the network, but actually the program itself is not very strict, so you can actually adjust your stay as long as you can justify it. For instance, if your visit to a different institution is actually more beneficial for you, you can do so. So I did not visit to any of the institution partners, but instead I visited Tokyo Institute of Technology to learn about cybersecurity and optimization-based control related to cybersecurity. So I spent 3 months there in Yokohama. So this is the building where I worked during my stay, and this is the group of that lab with Professor Hideaki Ishii. From that stay, actually, I got we accomplished we managed to get some results, and we presented these results in some conferences and in journal publication. And the second research stage that I did was actually in Arizona. That was also a really nice experience because I got the chance to work with Professor Angelian Endix, who is an expert in distributed optimization. And I also got the chance to visit the Grand Canyon and see this large cactus. So overall, it was a very nice experience. You get to learn. I got to learn a lot of things. Also visited many places. And then another thing that you can take full advantage of is to attend conferences and external courses. Throughout my 3 years PhD trainings, I attended 4 conferences. So at each conference, I had to present my work. The first one was actually in Milwaukee. It was like was called American Control Conference. So I attended 2 American Control conferences. The other one is in Philadelphia, and then the biggest control conference was CDC, and in 2018 it was in Miami, and I also attended the European Control Conference in 2019 in Naples. Also, I could also take some external courses because my university didn't offer advanced courses on control and optimizations, particularly on distributed optimizations. Then I could actually take some courses. For instance, this one I took games theory and distributed control courses in Paris, and I also took another course in Zurich. So basically, you get a lot of chance and opportunities to increase your technical skills and also soft skills throughout this MSCA ITN program. So yeah, that's all from me. I hope I can make you get interested with these kind of programs, and yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you so much, Wicak.
You're welcome.
It sounded extremely interesting. Are you still there? Exactly. I think we have a lot of time, or a little time now, to just ask a few questions. I mean, I wanted to maybe ask you, Wicak, first, because you finished your PhD, and maybe Vanessa as well. If you two reflect on this, how would you describe it to someone who is considering this? What makes this such a special experience as opposed to maybe a traditional PhD at a university in, I don't know, Jakarta or something? Wicak, what would you say? What is so special about it?
Well, mainly because of the opportunity to actually work on cutting-edge problems first, and then you got the chance to actually work with leading experts or researchers in that particular field. Especially in Europe, you can find a lot of them there, and then within the network itself, you get a chance to actually collaborate and actually to work with these persons and meet these people in person. For instance, during the workshops or the summer schools. I think, yeah, those are the main advantages, and you get the chance to do some research days, which I think is quite difficult if you don't have fundings. And yeah, this program offers these opportunities.
Thank you. And Vanessa, what would you say to a Singaporean, for example, if they are contemplating this? What would you say? Sorry, wait. You are, wait. You have to, now we can hear you. No.
No.
Maybe you can unmute yourself.
There you are. Yeah, now we can hear you.
Sorry. I think, well, I mean, since I've had a bit of an experience in a research lab in Singapore, I would say that maybe it's kind of a more close community in Singapore. I mean, I would have to kind of think twice before even asking someone anything outside of my lab or my department, because I mean, I think the culture and the rules are a bit different. So I think that was the main thing I learned in Europe, that it doesn't help to be selfish or paranoid about your results or what you're doing. And I mean, the thing is, every year I'm openly telling everyone, like, I mean, I wouldn't say they're competitors, but they're people in my field, what exactly is going on, and they know the problems that I'm facing. And I mean, they've always been really encouraging, really supportive. And the thing is, like, just like what Wicak mentioned, the point is that these people will help you with your project. I mean, it's so easy to ask for collaborations because that's expected within the network. And I think that's the big difference in Singapore. And the other thing for me is that you know that basically all these labs are in your field and they probably will be for the next 5 or 10 years coming on. And the fact that even by the time you get your PhD, almost every important person in the field knows you by name. They've seen you present many times. They know exactly what you're doing. So, you know, if you want to keep staying in this field, you're not an unknown applicant when you apply for a postdoc or any job after your PhD. So I think this for me, it's the biggest advantage. If you're really interested in what you're doing, it's really the best thing you can do to stay within your field.
Thanks, Vanessa. I have to say, from all your presentations, it sounds like a fantastic networking opportunity. I mean, you work with international partners and you have people on the network from different sectors, you know, different labs, but maybe also private kind of industry players. And then, as you say, everybody who's graduating with you will kind of make their way and their name somewhere. So you're really fabulously set up. I'm glad you're the youngest in a way. You've only just started. What are you looking forward to most for the next couple of years on your program?
So I haven't done my secondment like the others, so I'm really looking forward for that. Of course, we're trying to navigate how to do that in this situation, but so far we are all in Poland, so the partner institutes come visiting to us like only last year in June. So I'm really looking forward to visiting one of them and stay there for a few weeks, for example.
And which one do you have in mind? Which partner institution?
I have someone who is doing a lot of data analysis and biostatistics. I really would like to work with him. He's in Belgium. I also have an interest in doing, there's one company who's offering data analysis, but it's based in Poland, but a different city. That is something I also am looking to, yeah.
Excellent, thank you. I have a couple of questions from our audience members, and of course they are mainly interested about the application process. So maybe you can share a little bit of your tips and advice. There's some specific questions. Someone is asking whether you need to have publications, you need to have a publication record already. And also, what about a TEFL? Do you need it to show TEFL results, your English language certificate? Maybe Wicak, how about your case, your application, if you remember, how did that work?
Yeah, when I applied for my positions, I did not have any publication. So I was just finishing my master's thesis, and yeah, so my thesis at that time was very related to the project that I was doing in doing the PhD. So I guess that's why I was selected. And so yeah, to answer that question, you don't need to have publications, but probably you will have more chance if you have some publications. And regarding the TOEFL, I did not submit any TOEFL test score. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think it depends on the specific requirements of the ITN. As I said at the beginning, it's like a job advertisement. And of course, the individual networks have their own criteria that they're looking for. But Vanessa, maybe what do you think was, in your case, you were successful with your application. What do you think made you stand out?
Yeah, so my application process was slightly different because for Switzerland in the University of Geneva, they have a PhD program. So even if I wanted to apply directly to the ITN network, I think they would have wanted me to apply through the PhD program. So I would just suggest that you message your PI ahead of the time, your prospective PI, and ask if you need to go through the school, because there's kind of a few administrative hoops to get through, and you need to pass like another round of interviews. So that might be a thing for certain programs or certain universities. So I did the PhD program selection in Geneva. I got through that, and then I met my PI, and then I got accepted for the ITN. So mine was kind of an indirect way. And which I mentioned, I think for Singaporeans, since English is the first language there, I just submitted my O-level Cambridge English exam results, and that was enough. so I was considered a native speaker, so I never had any issue about that. And yeah, sorry, so what was the other thing you asked me?
And what do you think made you stand out? If you
All
have
right,
any,
yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I mean, I did have some publications from my research stint in Singapore, but I was kind of like the fifth author, so you know. And but I think what really stood out was the fact that I did many internships and I moved from Singapore to Paris. So when I met with my PI, he told me, oh, you know, this network needs you to move around a lot, and I need someone who's comfortable with doing that. So, and from my CV, that was obvious that I kind of took a few risks to leave Asia. I mean, I know it's not very feasible for everyone within the ASEAN network, but I think to really make it upfront that you want to be in Europe and you're really willing to move and you have no problems adapting to different like cultures or different countries with different languages. I mean, if you're an English speaker, I think it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think like proving that you really want to be within this network and you want all this mobility, I think that really helped for me. Yeah.
thanks, Vanessa. And Gladys, you're probably remembering this most clearly. Do you probably have also some advice, because we get that question sometimes, about the letter of intent? Do you remember what you wrote or what your advice would be?
So I imagine that every program, every school has their own prompt. So I would answer as closely as you can, as detailed as you can, according to that prompt. They asked about my research background, why I want to study there, how does my research fits with the program that they're offering. So I guess that really helped me stand out, because I really know what I wanted to do, and it was just a good fit with my current program. Also, I remember during the interview, I guess the first question I got was, why Poland? How will you manage being so far away from your family? So I guess if you can explain and show that you are ready to live in Europe, as what Vanessa said, like you can show you probably have lived or traveled abroad before, that would definitely be a bonus. In my program, I remember that we have points, and so they are pretty clear. Okay, if you have papers, you will have extra points, this much and that much. And so yes, a publication is not required, but it will definitely give you more advantage and competitiveness, in the application.
Okay, thank you. That's really good advice. Wicak, you've finished the process. If you look back, how do you think has it helped you in your career progression?
Actually, I have an anecdote, because when I did my research stay in Arizona, I was working with, I was in an office with another visiting student from Eindhoven. And actually, his professor was, or is still, my current professor in Delft. So I got to know the professor through him. So we collaborated during my stay there. We worked on a paper, we published at a conference, and then when the professor opened up a position, then I applied, and then yeah. So that was pretty straightforward. Like it directly impacted my my next step in my career.
Good, excellent. So the networking again, yeah, fabulous. I mean, we've almost come to the end of this session today. The audience members have typed a few specific questions. I will address those in writing, and I will add some additional slides to this presentation. As I said before, I will share the slides with everyone via email later today. But I have a final question for all of you, each of you, just a few words. If someone is hesitant now, they've been listening, but they're still hesitant, what would be your final words of encouragement? Maybe we start with Vanessa.
I think, I mean, I know it can be really daunting to leave your family, especially really far away. And if anything happens, it's at least a 10-hour, 11-hour flight. And I mean, that I've had some personal difficulties, so I couldn't go back in time, and that's been a bit sad. But I would say that if you really want to explore outside of outside of ASEAN, and there's so many opportunities here, and I think you're kind of treated very equally. There's a kind of like environment of like égalité, like they would say in French here, which I found the moment I moved to Paris. I mean, despite all the cliches and rumors you hear. And yeah, I think it will really be an adventure for you in your life, and a PhD is a really special experience, and this really makes it even more exciting. I would say to kind of just like not hold on to the fear so much, and yeah. So for me, that would be the main advice.
Thank you. Gladys, what would you
Yeah.
say?
Well, I think that any PhD in any country is difficult anyway, but with with MSCA, it makes the experience so much better. Like if you can, see from everyone's presentation, you get opportunities to travel, gain more knowledge, networking. All of those things are really amazing. And as you mentioned also that the funding is very generous, and I can say that it's very, very true. Moving abroad is not cheap, and it takes a lot of commitment in the beginning. And so being able to live without really thinking about your bills or how to extra job or whatever, you can just focus on your research. And this is one of the biggest advantage of studying with an MSCA. And I would like to add also, of course, with this current situation, people are probably anxious about moving abroad, but we have a student coming in. He actually came from one of the epicenter of the pandemic, currently not anymore, but my university and the project managers, they all try to help him come safely, do testing and all that stuff. So please don't worry. I'm sure that if they want you here, they will really work hard for you. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Gladys. And you, Wicak, have the final word.
Well, I don't have much to say. I agree with Vanessa and Gladys that a PhD in itself is very tough, and with Marie Curie, you get a lot of help, and from Marie Curie program, you also learn and grow a lot as a researcher and as a person. So yeah, go for it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much to all of you.
Welcome.
Fabulous to your stories. I am super excited. If I could, I'd sign up straight away. But I hope our audience today found this really informative and inspiring. As I said, the slides will be shared with you, and you can, of course, always visit us, Euraxis, and ask for our help and support. And the three of you, have a great week. Stay safe.
You too.
Thank you. You too, Susan.
I'll see you soon. So goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
I have to finish this now. There we go.